So here's the thing, Sammy. It's like, and it's not even like I expect it. Whenever you post a Caleb Williams highlight, there's always going to be, oh, every quarterback in the league makes that. No, they don't. Not even with no pressure. Listen, I've seen lots of quarterback play in Chicago. Not every quarterback makes that throw, but whatever. And at first I was thinking like, this is only they do this for the Bears. But then I realized, because I posted something on my Instagram about Kyle Pitts, like, oh, I forgot. Everybody hates this. Everybody. Like, everybody hates, like, whatever it is. Like, Kyle Pitts makes a nice play in practice, nitpick it. Anybody, like, the only guy who gets away, like, the only people who get praise are the Packers. Like, I saw Christian Watson run, like, the lamest route, like, so round. I think it was supposed to be a sharp cut, and he just sort of, like, he took it like it was, like he was just spinning. Like it was Tokyo Drift. Like, oh, look at this crisp. I'm like, are you guys, this is the guy that everybody universally comes to, whatever. So maybe it's just the NFL loves the Packers and nobody else. And it's one of those things we have to deal with. But you know what? I love our guest today. So Sammy, without further ado, let's start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Rank.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Hey everybody, welcome to a special edition of the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank. Missed you on Wednesday when we typically do our Take It to the Rank feature because I wanted to do a little something a little bit different over the next couple of days that will be spreading out. We're going to be looking at not only the Bears schedule and predicting wins, but I'm going to bring in representatives of the NFC North. So we're going to have Cynthia Freeland here talking about the Lions. We're going to get a Vikings and a Packers person in here to talk about their teams. I want to get their predictions. My NFL.com predictions will be dropping soon. Actually, it won't be until after June 1st, so it's not soon. But I did want to go out there and start doing it because I want to get a feel, because like everybody is always optimistic about their team. As a matter of fact, last year when I had the Vikings for, I believe it was 8 wins, they won 7. And so the Viking fans, they were all over my ass for weeks, months, and then they disappeared. They disappeared into the woodwork. Nobody ever responds to that. It's funny because when you look at the predictions I did for the NFC North last year, obviously I had the Bears winning 12 games, but like I was a game off on the Packers. I was a game off on the Vikings. I had the Lions with the winning record making the playoffs. So, okay, I didn't give you enough wins. Pretty close. Pretty close. The Bears always cost me, but that's fine. And listen, that should have been a 10-win team. I would have been 2 games off. I don't feel bad about that. So obviously last week I went out and gave you my prediction. It's time now to bring in a fellow meatball, and who better to join us from CHGO, the former bricklayer himself. Braggs is with us today. How are you, sir?
I'm great. It's starting to get to summertime. Pool's open in my backyard. Nothing better than, getting mowing the lawn. I'm already like 3 into that. I don't know if you're into mowing the lawn.
Do you have a push mower or do you drive?
Oh, I got a push mower. I do it the old school way, but I enjoy it. I enjoy summertime. I love the smell. I love the sun. So this is probably the one. I am a summer guy to my core, but if you made me pick, have a summer or skip ahead to the 70 days from now when training camp starts, I would skip this summer.
Don't skip ahead. Let's sit here and enjoy this. This is a good time to be. I know that did you golf? Did I see a photo of you golfing?
Yeah, I started getting into golf in last year in August, and now I'm completely addicted, and I go out as much as I possibly can. So I got 9 holes in this morning.
Oh, very nice. How'd you shoot?
I was doing all right. I was just playing by myself. So practicing with some clubs that I don't use that often. So I'm trying to elevate my game. Last year was the beginner stage, and now I'm starting to learn my distances, so to speak.
Oh, very nice. I think my driver got dented in a thing. I just noticed it today. I played yesterday with a golf pro, and it was so unnerving because like this guy's excellent. He's driving the ball 300 yards. And but I did birdie 2 holes in the front 9, so I felt pretty good. And then the wind took over. The wind took over in the back. I knew I should have quit. I'm like, I gotta like. Even then, it was the Dinah Shore tournament course in Rancho Mirage, California. The Dinah Shore, like they pros play here, and so I knew. And even with 2 birdies, I still was like, I saw it at like a 43 because I could. The greens are so fast in the desert. But in any event, that's neither here nor there. See, there's plenty of things to be talking about. The excitement, though, for Caleb Williams, you touched on this a little bit off the top. I don't know. I listen, I remember looking at videos of other quarterbacks, and not to defame other quarterbacks who've played for this team, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm just doing it because I want to convince myself of this, but it feels like Caleb Williams is so far ahead and he's so far better than anybody we've seen throw the rock since Jay Cutler.
Yeah, I was about to say the Jay Mania, definitely rivaled the Caleb Mania. When he first came here, I think he was traded here the day after April Fool's Day. And and that first training camp in Bourbonnais, they now practice in they now have their training camps at Hallis Hall in Lake Forest, but for a long time it was in this small town in Bourbonnais at a college campus called Olivet Nazarene University, where Ben Zobrist once played college baseball. And it was like if you go out there, it was like Field of Dreams, like in the middle of nowhere, nothing to do, just this little college campus in this really small podunk town. And when Jay got there, you would have thought the Beatles had arrived. And there used to be traditions of fans that would go out there that were locals that would try to get as many autographs as they can.
Yeah.
And 12,000 fans in that first weekend for Bears camp. And I can remember when Jay Cutler first came, they had to build barricades because the crush of where they exited the practice field to go back to the locker rooms, it got so dangerous that first weekend when Jay was there that they had to the next week they built barricades for him. So that's probably the closest to this, because let's face it, we've just never seen that many talented quarterbacks come through here.
Yeah.
So when we feel like we have that chance of that opportunity, the excitement level is always through the roof. Now, Jay's first year, all that excitement led to 30 interceptions his first year with the Bears. But you still saw the talent was different than what we had been used to with Rex Grossman and Kyle Orton. Now, the last couple quarterbacks, Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields, they certainly had some excitement, especially at training camp. I mean, the offseason is the season for dreaming, and we always, as Bears fans, try to find a way to see the pathway to greatness for each and every one of our players. And so we all thought that there was a pathway for Mitch to be successful in this league. He was a Pro Bowl quarterback in his second year. He made the playoffs. Justin Fields was arguably the most talented quarterback we've ever had. And watching him practice, training camp can be a little deceiving. And you're looking at a guy like, hey, why can't he be a great quarterback in this league, especially off of the year he had 2 years ago where he, almost broke the rushing record for a quarterback, came in second all time. So now Caleb's turn to have that kind of hype and expectation. And my hope is by the time we get to training camp, that it is like when Jay Cutler got here, or Brandon Marshall got here, or Devin Hester got here. And there's that vibe of, man, I've seen a lot of players, but I don't think I've ever seen this. Yeah. So we'll just have to wait and see once we get to training camp if that's the vibe we have. His resume and his pedigree is unlike anything we've ever had at the quarterback position. But will the look, will the vibe, will the feel have a different level that these other quarterbacks? Today they just got off the practice field at Hallis Hall at OTAs, and sounds like the defense gave him a run for his money today, and the offense struggled. So you can say, okay, that's to be expected. The defense is in their second year. In this system, this is the first year of an offensive system, let alone the first year for a rookie quarterback. And you didn't have Rome Odunze or Keenan Allen on the practice field. You didn't have a couple offensive linemen. I believe Nate Davis and a couple other guys were out as well. So I think 4 different starters. But they didn't have a good day. Jalen Johnson almost had an interception, and they, I guess they almost picked off a few other balls. So will we get to a point at training camp where he's dominating the day on the offensive side of the ball? That's yet to be determined, but I'm excited to find out.
No, I think it'll be a lot like your golf game where you're looking at a couple of nice shots here and there and building on some things. And I'm not trying to be flip or anything like that, but it's going to be a work in progress for him. And so I look at it as, especially this time of year, especially with this defense. I mean, as we're sitting here as fans talking about how great the defense is, the defense should be ahead. I would actually be concerned if Caleb was coming in and smoking them right off the bat. Like you don't want to be that person. That would be, I think that would be a worse sign. So I don't really get too much upset. I don't get too upset about that. And I think that, once Caleb gets in there and gets an opportunity to settle in with all the people who are going to be on the field for him, including Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, and all of those guys. I keep seeing this too, where I think it was Pro Football Focus was ranking the position groups. They have the Bears as the best receiving room in the NFL. How do you feel?
What world is this?
Yeah, I know, but and you think about it, and again, this goes back to people like, what about Justin Fields? Why? I'm like, that's just the way it goes. I mean, it's like technology in a way. Like I loved Super Tecmo Bowl. Like I really did. It was such a fun game. But when you upgraded to Madden, you're like, oh, this is different. Like I can still love the old one, but I'm moving on to the new thing. Right. Doesn't mean I don't like the old one. Similarly, I'm moving on to this new organization, a new world of the Bears. We're the best receiving corps, and it's not outlandish to think about. Like and I understand people are like, well, I like Texans, I like theirs, and I like this room. I'm like, that's fine. And I understand that there's a question mark with Rome Odunze. He's never taken a snap in the NFL. Keenan Allen's never played a down with this organization. So yeah, like it seems a little, even for us meatballs, a little preposterous to say best in the NFL. But what do you think about that ranking?
It's exciting. I mean, last year when we went into training camp, we were one of only 3 teams in the NFL with 3 different wide receivers that had 850 yards or more in a single season. Right. With Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney, and DJ Moore. 2 of the 3 had over 1,000 yards in a season before, and so there was hype with that receiving core. And if they had all panned out to their best ability, then you could say, oh, they had a great receiving, but like at the end of the day, it's the quarterback has to get them the ball. The offense has to be efficient, has to move the football. The defense has to get them the ball enough times for these guys to have enough opportunities to get the kind of stats we feel like they can make. But I mean, it stacks up. I mean, Keenan Allen had maybe his best year. It's statistically, it was his best year of his career last year.
Yeah.
And so, he's getting older, but doesn't show on, the stat sheet. Now he got those numbers with Justin Herbert and the Chargers. And so that's great for the Chargers, but how will Keenan Allen do here in Chicago with a rookie quarterback? Will he be able to get to 1,000 yards? I mean, Rome Odunze had said, they're all in a race to 1,000. They're all in a race to see who's going to be the best of the 3. And so I'm excited for that competition, that inter squad competition there. So, Rome Odunze is a rookie. So how high expectations should we all have, for him right out the gate? Certainly interesting. I can remember when Alshon Jeffrey, was a rookie and he first came here. He definitely looked the part, so that's the thing. There has been so few really good offenses at training camp that I've seen in my lifetime. Really air raid, big time offenses. And that year with Jay Cutler, Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall, Martellus Bennett, Matt Forte, you could see it. You could definitely see it. It was different. Because that's the hardest part about training camp. It's Bears versus Bears. Yeah. So you could have a bad offense and a bad defense, but you might not know it from the average fan in the stands eye, because one day you're seeing deep ball, touchdown, Earl Bennett. The next day it's a few interceptions, and we as fans will go, well, that's good. Iron sharpens iron. Defense made plays today, offense made plays the next day. So how you decipher this stuff, how you rationalize what's good and bad. Cause like, hey, Caleb had a bad day today. We go, well, that's good because the defense is showing him what the NFL windows are, and he's going to learn, and it's a step-by-step process. But if Caleb had shredded the defense today, we'd all be like, well, that's great. Let's fit his Hall of Fame jacket now. You know what I mean? Like, we're not gonna immediately go to the negative, right? And so last year at training camp, you had Fields and the offense struggled a few times against the defense. You're like, well, that's good. The defense is, you know what I mean? So like, it's one of these kind of dances you do in your head as a fan to try to figure out exactly what you're seeing. And that's why for me, it is so important for this team to get some serious reps in preseason games. The Bengals, they play them in the preseason, and it sounds like there is going to be, intra-squad scrimmage at Hallis Hall before that game. Get as many reps against somebody else as you possibly can so you really can understand where you're at as a football team heading into week one. I do not want to see the Bears and Matt Eberflus not playing their starters in the preseason.
Please.
If it's good enough for Patrick Mahomes, if it's good enough for Tom Brady, go look at those guys every year in preseason. They get themselves ready for week one. And if it's good enough for them, it should be good enough for Caleb Williams, Matt Eberflus, and the Chicago Bears.
We just saw a video the NFL put out from the rookie premiere where Tom Brady was addressing all those guys and talking about like he treated every game, every preseason game, everything like it was the Super Bowl, so that when he got to the Super Bowl, it was no big deal. It was just another game to him.
Right.
And I think that's some of the things that these coaches they've gotten too cute with over the last number of years. Is they're like, oh, look at us. We're gonna take our time. We're gonna slow play this. Like, there's no reason to. Get running. Like there shouldn't be like throwaway games or shouldn't be mail-in games or anything like that. I know it happens, but it should never be that way. And I do. If we start doing this thing, especially where we're screwing around, like Caleb's not going to play in the first game. And if we start having the conversation about like, well, it's really the inter squad scrimmage, it doesn't. No, you got to play in the stadium. You got to be out there with the field, with the fans, with all that kind of stuff. Like we can't run from that. And I'm bought into Eberflus and the glow up and everything like that. But you just can't go back to making these mistakes of like being afraid to play football. Like you got to go out there and you got to play and feel like, what if somebody gets hurt? Like what? I don't understand. Like I've seen players go down in week one during the season. Like they get hurt week one. Happened to Tom Brady after the perfect season. Did everybody sit there and be like, well, at least it was during the regular season. Right. Thank God. I don't care now. Had this been preseason, this would have been a problem. But thankfully, it was week one and he's lost for the year. I don't care. No, like you're still upset when these things happen. And it can happen to me.
Chase Claypool was hurt for most of the preseason last year, so they scaled him back hard. Kyler Gordon got hurt, wasn't able to play week one. That was a huge hit to the secondary. He looked like at one point during training camp that he was going to be like this breakout guy early on.
Yeah.
Then they had to wait on that. And, so then you go and play, you go down to Indianapolis and you do these scrimmages for a couple days. So that gives you enough belief to not play your starters on game day versus the Colts that weekend. That was a mistake. Yeah. This offense needed reps. Justin Fields needed reps. And so do not make that same mistake again. You say, and you're 100% right. On paper, we're fully healthy, but are you calloused up enough to be ready for the season? Because at the end of the day, you can try to maintain your depth chart health, but if you're not calloused up to be ready to play football week one, you're going to end up getting hurt right away anyway. So it's 6-1, half a dozen the other. At the end of the day, this is a violent sport. It's a physical sport, and you got to be ready to start. It's like a boxer. You can't not go in the ring and spar every day before a match, or UFC, and not take any punches, because then every man's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth, Adam. And then when you get hit in the mouth week one, you haven't been hit enough, then you're not ready for it. Then you're falling back. So we got to be able to stand in there and take a few punches before the lights come on.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I hope that's the approach they're going to take. Speaking of week one, though, if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind. I would like to go through the schedule with you. You don't have to go fully in depth. I don't know if you've done this for CHGO yet, if you put out your official prediction, but we can go and sprinkle in, get some first thoughts on a lot of these games, where you're leaning. I gave a prediction last week when the schedule came out. I will be doing my official predictions for the NFL in next week, which will drop in June. I actually have my Bears one. I don't know if mine is different from what I said when we were on the air the other day. I'm going to move this over here, and I still want to see you. All right, so we're looking at this schedule. Week 1, Houston Texans. Tennessee Titans.
Yep.
That's got to be a win, right? I know Sammy gets upset and Anello gets upset when we say this, but like, we're beating the Titans. Like, that would be a red flag if we lost that game.
Well, it's a must win, and my co-host at CHGO Bears, Mark Carman, he was laughing at me when I made this statement. But at the end of the day, most, if not all of your home games are must win. And there's only a handful of teams typically on your schedule where you are the favorite. And the Titans are one of them. I'm not trying to sell them short, but at the end of the day, you're a better team than the Titans and you're playing them at home. You've got to stack up some wins because as we get into it, the second half of their schedule is a gauntlet. So for those 3 reasons, that's a must win. And so, yes, I do believe they'll beat them. And for all the fans that are, I was like, oh man, I wanted to play the Lions on Sunday Night Football, and all the Bears fans are like, well, this is a good thing. They can get, Caleb Williams gets a softball start, get his feet wet in the league. Yeah. All right, cool. They're at the end of the day, they got to win this game, and I think they can. So I don't mind the matchup. I like the more fun matchups. And if you had said before the schedule had come out, like, what team are they going to start the year with? I think this might have been my 17th pick.
This would have been 17 out of 17.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's a very winnable game. So let's hope the Bears can get it done, and I think they will as well. I think they win that game.
And I was on the record saying that I hate having divisional games to start the year, to start the season. I just think I put this in the cold open last week. Like, I wouldn't start divisional games till week 5 and do 5, 6, 7 as like divisional games. Week 5 being your chief rival, if you have one, which would obviously for us be the Packers. If it was the 49ers or played Rams in week 5, I think that would be a fun way to do it and kind of lock people in. Like, because like once because if you lose, however the first quarter of the season starts, if you haven't started your division play, you still got a chip in a chair and can still go out there and do some damage. But that's just a nutty little idea I have. But of course, there's a guy who there's an office. I don't know this, like, with everything that goes on with the NFL, with all the shuffling of people, there's a group who got together. It's like, look, we got to make this schedule thing seem as tough as possible. Like, you can Madden generate a schedule in 40 seconds, but we got to make people believe that we need 8 staff members and listen, God bless them for job security, but like, we got to make this seem as difficult as possible, as convoluted as possible. Hey, can we do buys in 8, 9, 10, 11? Nope. Too difficult. Like, that would be the most, okay, whatever. Like, yes. So God bless them for doing that. But
the only thing difficult for them is trying to figure out who the bidding war between the networks, right? That's where the real decision making and why the process is getting drawn out, especially nowadays with how many different places you can watch the NFL and the different streaming services. I think we're up to like 8 different places now the NFL will be aired this season. So it's not just ESPN versus Fox and CBS anymore.
That's true.
Now you got
Amazon needs a game. Hulu.
Amazon, Hulu, Peacock.
Wait till TikTok has a game. Oh, buddy. Yeah. Wait till Algier.
Netflix gets 2.
Netflix gets 2 games. Paramount has games. In any event. Okay, so week 2, I mentioned the Texans a moment ago. I think most people are sort of conceding like, this will be a loss. What do we think about this Texans game?
Yeah, I mean, I think most people are just saying it's a loss because they got to lose somewhere.
They're going to lose 5 games, maybe.
Those first 6 games before the bye, you're like, I don't want to sound like a homer and pick them to win every game. So I guess I'll just pick them to lose in Houston. And so I guess, they got Danielle Hunter, they've got a pass rush, it's on the road. House will be rocking. So can the Bears hold up and keep Caleb clean? I mean, obviously, like I said today, he struggled. So, there will be some growing pains, at OTAs. There's going to be growing pains in training camp. There will be growing pains in the regular season. So will this be the welcome to the big leagues moment on the primetime stage and the Bears aren't able to, keep up with the crowd noise and everything else? I don't know. All I know is if the Bears were to win that game, now all of a sudden things could turn to a real momentum swing for the Bears. Because, like, for me, not to skip ahead, but, I just looking at this schedule all the way to week 11 against the Packers, which is their first divisional game, there's not, to me, one game that you could tell me that there's no way they can't win that game.
Yeah.
Like last year when the Bears schedule came out and they were like week 4 against the Chiefs, or was it week 3 against the Chiefs? It was
whatever the Chiefs game was. Yeah,
week 3 against the Chiefs, and Bears fans were like, I'm going to Kansas City. I was like, I wouldn't. I get the barbecue's really good, but I would not pay good money to watch my team get barbecued. And when I used to pick the one game a year that I'd go to, I don't know if I'm in a hurry to spend my hard-earned money to go watch Patrick Mahomes kick my face in for 4 quarters, and that's exactly what happened.
Unless you're a Swiftie. If you wanted to take your daughter to that game, like my daughter would have loved to have gone to that game, if for no other reason because Taylor Swift was in the crowd.
That was when she took over the universe, so that was really nice watching Taylor Swift and Patrick Mahomes dance on our graves week 3. But to that point, I don't think there is a game like that on our schedule all the way until the second half of the season, and then you could make an argument there's potentially some games there that'll be really difficult to win. But Texans obviously being the toughest of those first 10 weeks of the season, no question about it. So I do have them losing, but it's only because of
just because we don't look like homers.
What I have after.
100%. Yeah. What I have after, because like next week it's on the road again. It's against the Colts, but I'm like Matt Eberflus revenge game. I can't see us. I think we win that one.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Bears fans travel well. So every road game, I think you're going to have a Bears fan influence within the game. But in Indianapolis, 100%, you are going to hear a lot of Bears fans there. And I'm a big fan of the stands impact kind of guy. I'm less, obviously I follow the X and O's. I follow the matchups. It's a matchup driven league. It's a week to week league in terms of who's available personnel wise, but I'm also very much about momentum. And I think this Bears team has an opportunity to really build themselves momentum. And when you watch that 2018 Bears team and the way all of a sudden they just became this rolling ball down the hill, an avalanche for the rest of the league. And then it turned into Club Dub, and any team that came to Soldier Field was just getting ran over because the hype train that they had behind them, the fans were hyped, the team was hyped, the crowd was always electric. I think that this team has that opportunity because we are so bloodthirsty for competitive football and talented players here in Chicago. So, I think they get off to a hot start. I think they beat the Colts, and then I think the Rams are running into a buzzsaw after that.
I do too. I like the Rams. I have the Rams making the playoffs once again. But I will say that the Rams don't typically play well in Soldier Field. A couple of years, I know Jared Goff was a quarterback. Matthew Stafford actually had a pretty nice game against, I think it's the last time he was there as a Lions quarterback. Played pretty well, but I think the Bears should handle the Rams. Like I have this is no disrespect for the Rams, but when you start talking about home games, I think the home games are super important, and I think that they get that one.
Yeah, I completely agree. I agree. I probably am selling the Rams short a little bit, but yeah, they don't. Matt Stafford, Rams, they don't scare me.
I'm not selling them short, but I think that the Bears.
I know you're not. I kind of am, is what I'm saying. Like I don't know why. I look at that team and it, I know that they're a playoff fringe type of team, but I just kind of look at them like the Bears should be favored in that game.
I know there was Bucky Brooks wrote something recently about like, Rams Chargers potential Super Bowl. I'm like, that is the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. The Rams, maybe. The Chargers, no. Like, no. I love Jim Harbaugh as much as anybody. But
Yeah.
you look at his first year at Stanford, where I think they won 4 games. Like, he did very well in San Francisco. He did very well his first year at Michigan. Stanford, I think, which is similar to where the Chargers are right now, is no, that's not happening. So I think the Rams are a decent team, but I think the Bears beat them. Week 5, Carolina. This is not, I mean, Bryce Young sort of revenge game, but I don't think that we don't know what their coaching staff is going to be like. We don't know what they're going to be like. We don't know if Bryce Young is actually going to develop as a quarterback. I think it's very easy to give the Bears the win here.
Yeah. And again, another one of those must wins. Home game.
Yeah, you gotta win. Yeah.
Home game against a team you're prohibitive favorites against. NFC opponent. So that's even bigger than the Titans, game, in that regard. And again, this first half of the schedule, you got to stack as many wins as you possibly can before you get to the second half of the season.
Yeah. So that, to me, I hope that they're dialed in for all of these, beating the teams that they're supposed to beat. The tricky one for me is here in week 7?
Week 6.
Week
week
6
in London.
The London game against the Jags. Jacksonville has so much experience playing in these London games. I'm still upset because Tony Khan's Fulham team actually ended up costing Arsenal the premier. Of all the games Arsenal lost, I know Aston Villa is one that everybody points to. It's like the Fulham game, both Fulham games, I think drew them as well. Like, so the Jags though, but again, like I look at it and I'm like, if there's one pick I might change, it might be this one.
Yeah.
I think there's a real possibility of, number one, the Bears not taking Carolina seriously because they're prepping in their mind to go to London. I need to go look at this. I want to see how teams playing in London for the first time, what they're like the week before. Like if there's something like, like if Caleb's got to worry about his passport or something, I'm sure he's international, he doesn't. But like some of these younger guys, like I don't know if I should ask Tyler Scott if he has a passport. He probably does. A lot of they do. They travel internet. I know Bayless has a passport because I see him abroad all the time. But I wonder if that's a thing, or else like I feel like one of these 2 games could end up being a trap game with Carolina and Jacksonville.
Yeah, no, and it's fair. We're like step for step in this as far as
But if you're not changing, I'm not changing. I want to be on board. I want to be on board with you as much as possible.
It's the one game where I agree with you that you could convince me to change it. The only reason I picked the Bears is we are going to London, and I refuse to go all the way across this globe and watch the Bears lose. So it is a heart thing. I mean, the Jaguars didn't. Like at the end of the year, it wasn't like they looked like world beaters. I mean, who was the better team at the end of last year? Like to me, I think the Bears could have easily beat the Jaguars at the end of last year. And now you talk about the roster improvements the Bears have made. I know the Jaguars have made additions of their own, but I don't know if it compares to what the Bears have done. To your point, Jacksonville has experience overseas. They play back-to-back weeks there, but it's not until after our game is the second game. So there's no advantage there. The last time the Bears played at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it was against the Raiders in 2019. It was a Bears home game. And I was there with Bearlissimo, and it was raucous in that stadium. And a lot of the fans that had gone to a lot of the London games were telling me that was the first time that they felt a prohibitive, because when you go to London games and you walk into the stadium, all 32 teams are represented by the fans. You walk around and there's jerseys of every different team in the league because people over there just want to see a football game. They may not get to necessarily see their team. So typically it's kind of like this melting pot of fans. But for the Bears Raiders game, it was well over 50% Bears fans. And so while I think there will be a lot of Jaguars fans there because they're starting to become the hometown team.
Yeah, but there's two games. I think the Bears fans snap up all these tickets.
Yeah, I agree. Bears fans are going to take this game over again. I'll be there. So once again, my whole week that week, the Panthers game the week before.
Do you have a passport?
Yeah, I got a passport. So the week before, I'm taking my wife this time because last time she couldn't go and I refused to go to London.
Oh yeah, obviously, you were there before, barely.
Yeah, without Jenny. So the week before we have a tailgate for every home game for CHGO Sports. So I'll be doing the tailgate near Soldier Field. Then Bears game is from 12 to 3. We're going to do our post game show from 3 to 5 the week before, October 6th. That night, after the post game show, I'm flying straight to London, taking a train to Paris for 3 days with my wife. Then we're going to London, coming back to London. So, to spend like 4 or 5 days there before the game. I'm excited for that week. And if I do all of this excursion for the Jaguars to beat the Bears, that's going to leave a bad taste in my mouth. So I refuse to pick the Jaguars out of my heartstrings because I used to go to every Bears game, especially every home game. Now, because of what I get to do, and I'm very lucky to get to do what I do, which is cover the Bears and do post-game shows in studio with Adam Hogue, Mark Harmon, and Nick Moriano, Corey Woot, and all those guys. But I don't get to go to games anymore. So, this game will be the first game in 2 years that I've been since the Bears-Texans game 2 years ago. So if I go to a game and they lose, I'm literally going to cry. So I just can't pick it out of the emotion. But I understand where you're coming from. I know this was long-winded, but I know where you're coming from.
I love it.
This is the one game out of all these wins I keep picking where you could convince me that I'm being too much of a homer here.
Yeah, I'm trying to see because I do have the Jags as an 8-9 team, but people know that I have some sort of affinity for our friends down in Duval County. This one might be one that I switch. I might switch it just because of the London factor. But I will say this too. They always talk about that. Like, hey, somebody's wearing a jersey from every team. You know what? I think that's stupid. I think it's dumb. I'm sorry. I know that they love to make that some sort of kitschy thing. Last year, I went to go see Arsenal play Barcelona. You know how many Man City kits I saw? 0, because we didn't want you there. We don't know. This year, it'll be Man United against Arsenal at SoFi Stadium. You won't see you will see maybe some of the other international leagues and stuff like that. But you're not wearing a Tottenham Hotspur kit to an Arsenal Man U game. So I kind of don't like it. I know that they love to romanticize that. Like they just love foot. Like, no, like, listen, like there should be enough fans of one team. SoFi Stadium, where the Rams and Chargers play. It was admittedly, it's Barcelona. It's Barcelona. We combined the two teams. It's Arsenal and Barcelona. We had enough fans of both sides to fill up an entire stadium with just fans of those teams. We didn't need somebody wearing an Aston Villa kit. We just didn't need it. Maybe there was a Man City guy. No, because the Man City guy would have known better.
Let them get their feet under them. I mean, it's probably not by. I'm sure they'd love to have their own home team out there, and now they're being kind of force fed the Jaguars. I don't.
I guess, but I mean, like Arsenal has a thing here. And I know they travel around the United States, but it's like you're getting people hate Arsenal and you don't get like fans of those other side. Like there's no Chelsea fans. Like I have a friend of mine who's a Chelsea supporter who was like, because I had asked last year, I'm like, because I thought about that whole thing. I'm like, oh, you're going to go see Arsenal and Barcelona? She's like, no. Like, why would I ever go to that? I'm like, oh, but that's the thing. It's like the English football fans like, I'm going. I'm a Packers fan, but I'm going to this Bears game. So if you're international and you're a fan of the Packers, don't go to this game. We don't want you there. Go when the Packers go. They'll be there. You go to Brazil. All right. So we got the bye week. And then again, like after the bye week, 3 very winnable games at the Commanders.
Yep.
I mean, I see a lot of buzz for people thinking the Commanders could have a Texans-like season. I think they're giving too much credit to Jaden Daniels. I don't think he's CJ Stroud. I'm sorry, folks. They're trying to draw the narratives of like, hey, 2nd overall pick, blah, blah. I'm like, nah, no. CJ Stroud's a much better quarterback. What do you think about the Commanders game, though? Which way are you leaning on that one?
I got the Bears winning that game. I've got the Bears winning these next 3 games.
The next 3, okay. And
I really don't like. In the Cardinals game, I think is the only one that's a real coin flip.
We're not losing to this. We're not losing to the Southsiders.
Right. Kyler Murray. Exactly. Kyler Murray in Arizona it was a competitive game at Soldier Field last year. The Bears almost blew it at the end. Cardinals came back, but that was on the lakefront. This one's in Arizona, but
again, it'll be a Chicago Bears home game.
Again, 100%.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
And think about this, like the Commanders game too. Like I have them winning that one. I know I kind of skipped through that one, but like, will Jaden Daniels even be available for that game? We saw what happened with Anthony Richardson, and Anthony Richardson has a bigger frame than Jaden Daniels. Will Jaden even be? I'm not wishing injury upon anyone, but I do think it's a legitimate concern of his. Especially in his rookie year, of how they're going to keep him upright and keep him healthy. When teams are gearing up to get him down. So we'll see. But so you go into that Cardinals game, you say, like you said, it's going to be
I'm probably going to end up being at that Cardinals game,
and I might see you there. So because we have two different games that we're traveling as a company to, and that is the Jaguars game in London and in Arizona for the Cardinals game. So I hope to see you there, Adam.
There's Portillo's in Arizona for a reason.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Because there's so many Chicago transplants who live in Arizona.
Have you ever had Grimaldi's pizza?
Yeah, of course.
Dude, I had it for the first time. My guy, Matthew Gregory, I stayed out with him when I went for the Final Four to watch my Purdue Boilermakers get to the national championship and fall to UConn.
Yeah.
He took me to Grimaldi's Pizza, and we had the hot honey pizza. I'd never had it in my life, and I know our guy, Draft Dr. Phil, will swear by, his Connecticut roots.
New Haven.
They have in New Haven, and I get that. I went out. We visited him once when we went out there, and their pizza is great. But that was the best pizza at Grimaldi's I've ever had in my entire life. I mean, it was addictive. I honestly, I don't know how you feel about it, but
no, it's great.
It is addictive. It's like crack on pizza. But just to go back to the Cardinals game, you say it's going to be a Bears takeover, Chicago Bears fan takeover, and I agree. But
100%.
This is what I mean from a momentum standpoint. If it does lay out the way we're saying, and it's Titans, Colts, Rams, Panthers, maybe the Jaguars, Commanders, regardless of the Jaguars game, you're talking about a team that has 5 or 6 wins heading into Arizona. They're like 6-1 Bears. Like you're talking about the 2004 Super Bowl team. You know what I mean? Like the 2006 Super Bowl team, even the 2005, the year before, or 2018 Bears, where you're talking about a team that has insane momentum at this point in the season, and the fans are out of their minds. They're taking over road games. The players are playing like they have their hair on fire. So that's what I mean from not just from a matchup. I like the way the schedule lays out early on, but I just look at it from a momentum standpoint and how tough the Bears will be to beat if they are playing like they should be with the winnable games on their schedule. And that really excites me as a Bears fan.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then they would roll through New England. And then we get up to the game against the Packers at home. What are we thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, I picked the Packers to win that game. I'm kind of with my guy Adam Hogue, my co-host there at CHGO Bears. It's like I want the Bears to beat the Packers desperately. I saw Jordan Love when we were at the Super Bowl Radio Row, and I told him straight up, I'm like, you're ruining my life because how dare you be very good? And he is very good. And, we were wondering if the Packers were going to be able to do this 3 times in a row. And I don't know if Jordan Love will end up being Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre, but there's no question the guy has a ton of talent. And so I don't love having to pick the Packers in this game, but like I said, I'm kind of with Adam Hogue at this point. They got to prove it to me that they can do it. It's at home. They're going to have if there's 7-1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-1. I have them before the Packers game. Like when I talk about momentum, 8-1 Bears Packers on the lakefront. They should be able to roll them over. But at the same time, we've gone down this road so many times, and I hate going against my meatball DNA here. But at some point, the rubber's got to meet the road with this Bears team. They're not going to go 16-1. They're not going 17-0. I got to pick some losses somewhere. I do think the Packers, match up well. you talk about the personnel matchup, but I do think it is a Matt LaFleur versus Matt Eberflus matchup. And so far, Matt LaFleur has had Eberflus's number. And I get, Eberflus didn't have Montez Sweat for the first game. In that second game, could the Bears offense be better than what we saw the last week of the season? That's the hope.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I got to see Matt Eberflus move a chess piece across the board and get Matt LaFleur's number, because right now he's running circles around him.
So what do you do with week 12? Do you think that the Bears, when they go back home to play Minnesota, they beat them the following week, or do you think they lose that one too?
No, I like the matchup at home against the Vikings. Will JJ McCarthy be the starter at that point? I think that's the expectation right now.
I would think so.
It's OTAs, but right now he's getting third string reps. Behind Sam Darnold and Mullins. I think Nick Mullins is their other backup. But I think they're taking it a step-by-step process with JJ McCarthy. But I like the Bears in that game at home. We'll just have to wait and see how JJ McCarthy acclimates to the NFL level, once he starts getting those starter reps.
No, I kind of like where your head's at with this one, because I had it reversed, where I had the Bears beating the Packers but losing to the Vikings after a come down. But I would venture a guess that the Bears would end up like losing this Packers game, because I see the whole buildup of like, hey, we finally have an opportunity at home, and then it's a losable game for that reason. And so I could see that. I definitely see that. Okay. And then losing, and then you would have them losing on the road to the Lions and the 49ers.
Well, I actually got them beating the Lions on Thanksgiving. It's a risky pick. I like how they match up with the Lions. They should have beaten them twice last year. They slipped on the banana peel in Detroit last year, being up 2-score with like 3 minutes to go in that game. Mm-hmm. The Lions have lost 7 straight Thanksgiving games. So that's the one thing I think is kind of working against them in a weird way.
Yeah, I like that.
It's almost like a matter of time before they finally win one of these. But at the same time, are the Lions going to come back down to earth a little bit this year? Are the Bears going to be the Lions of this year, and they're the hot team? It's on Thanksgiving, a holiday, spotlight for Caleb Williams and the Bears. I like how they match up with them. I think Jared Goff struggles against this defense and what Matt Eberflus schemes up against him, whereas, I think the Packers have our number a little bit. I think we have the Lions number a little bit. So I've got them beating the Lions, but yes, I do. The Niners are that Chiefs game on our schedule at San Francisco. That's not a great matchup. That's not a great spot. We're packaged in between.
That's fine.
We have this Niners game snuggled in between five divisional games that we got to worry about. And oh, by the way, you got to play the Niners in between all of that. That's not a great match.
That was not cool. You know what? The guy Mike North, who was on all the NFL, it's because of me, because I always keep knocking his job, because I keep laughing at him like this. You make this harder than it needs to be.
Right.
And the first time I ever met him, it was at the Super Bowl at Dallas. And I'm like, oh my God, anybody ever tell you look like CM Punk? And he's like, who is that? And I'm like, we're not going to get along. I think he purposely did this. So how do you think we do against the Vikings the second time? Do we sweep the Vikings?
Now this is like one of those coin flip games. Yeah. I like how we match up with both the Vikings and the Lions. So I do have them. It's on Monday Night Football against the Vikings, that game.
Yeah.
So I like that. I'm just going off of how I feel, week to week, trying to take momentum into consideration. Bears are a winning team at this point. Playoffs in their sight.
Coming off the game against
coming off a loss against the San Francisco 49ers. Exactly. So to me, I like that Vikings what? So this is Vikings at home on Monday Night Football?
Yeah, there'd be Vikings. This would be in Minnesota.
No, is it the other? I think it's the other way around. Is it? No.
No, this is at Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. At Minnesota. So that Niners game is at home. It's not in San Francisco.
No, that one's in San Francisco. I'm going to that one.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the way these are. What's throwing me off is with your graphic is how it's highlighted. It's just every other.
Oh.
I see. So yeah. So the Vikings on the road, Monday Night Football. I do have them winning that game. I just like how they match up with Minnesota. No Kirk Cousins, so JJ McCarthy doesn't necessarily scare me. And then the Lions game the next week at home is, believe it or not, that is Jared Goff's second outdoor game of the season.
That's right. Yeah.
Week 16.
The indoor cat's got to go outside for a little bit.
Yeah. So I like that matchup at home. This is our 3 games in 10-day stretch with the Vikings, Lions, and Seahawks. And even though it's not ideal, I do like how it does lay out in terms of the Lions game being at home and the Seahawks game being at home on a short week. So, like I said, no surprise to you, but I've just the first glance at this schedule, I've gone complete full meatball, like the true.
So how many? Where are we at? 12 wins? No, 13 for you.
I got them winning 13 games. I got them losing to the Packers the last week of the season.
You know what? I do too, because they don't need it.
That's why I did it. That's what
if I switched this, so I actually went through and I switched. I gave Jacksonville that one. I just want Jacksonville in the playoffs. Oh, that would mean Houston's not in the playoffs. I might have to redo these. I do like, so with everything going the way that it did, even if the Bears lose that game against Jacksonville, they would be 12-5. That would mean the Packers would be 9-8 with this win. And it would just be like a great, I think it would be so funny to be like, you know what? We don't need this game. Have your fun, Jordan Love, and miss the playoffs, but be able to say that you swept us twice.
Well, that would be the key, though, right? Is if the Bears in our meatball scenario have nothing to play for on 10 days rest, I do like that. If it doesn't go the way we are and the Bears are fighting for their lives the last week of the season, they have 10 days to prepare for the biggest game of their life. I love how, at the very least, as gauntlet as it is from week 11 to week 17, at least they gave us 10 days to prep for at Green Bay if that does have playoff implications. But in our scenario, where the Bears have nothing to play for, the caveat is that if the Packers do have something to play for to make the playoffs, we have been down this road the year the Packers won the Super Bowl. And the Bears didn't have anything to play for, and the Packers got in. And then the Packers eventually beat the Bears in the NFC Championship on the lakefront, and the Bears were the reason that the Packers got into the playoffs. So that would be an interesting conundrum, is if the Bears have nothing to play for other than keeping Green Bay out, and what Matt Eberflus would decide to do in that scenario. But I will take that problem. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Real quick. Hold on. I got to send Cynthia a note. Hold on. Of course, I don't have my phone with me, so I got to do this voice-wise. We're just a few minutes behind. See you soon. So we're doing this. So anybody who watches both of these, we're going to do Cynthia right back to back. Not on the same show, so it'll be a different show. We're going to go over the Lions stuff because I'm interested to see what she has to say about that. But the way that this scenario worked out for me when I was doing this is that San Francisco would have the number 1 seed locked up, and because they had the head-to-head, they wouldn't be able to. There's really nothing we could do to get the number 1 seed, and there's no 2 seed, so you're not playing for that anymore, which I think is a mistake. And then you would be like, okay, fine, we'll let Green Bay. And with the way I had Green Bay, sorted is like a win doesn't matter for them. So
I think what excites me about this schedule at the end of the day is, and obviously we're the eternal optimists, and I'm surprised that we both ended with 13 because I would have expected you to get up to 15. I know how you pick these schedules every year on NFL Network, and we love you for it. But at the end of the day, when you look at this schedule as objectively as you possibly can, you are hard pressed to not find at least 10 wins on their schedule. Like, and that's just honestly in trying to be as objective as possible. Like, to me, like 9 wins is the lowest amount they can go. Like, anything less than 9 wins would be a massive disappointment with
100%
on this roster and the schedule they have in front of them. I think from a strength of schedule standpoint, they have the 3rd easiest strength of schedule in all of football, something like that. And I know that's kind of an arbitrary number because it's not about their strength of schedule now. It's what the strength of schedule is once the season is over. But they just have so many winnable games. Anywhere from 10 to 13 to me is definitely doable, possible. Maybe, 13 is way above anything to expect, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. The only thing I think that Bears fans have to hold their breath over, and let's hope that Ryan Poles is still working the phones and trying to add another pass rusher. And I think he will I think
Ngakwe's coming back.
At the very least, bring back Yannick Ngakoue, but maybe there's somebody else that becomes available on the market.
I think he's moving a pick. I think he's moving a 2nd-round pick again.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing because to me, you're in win now mode. The reason you reset the rookie quarterback clock, and brought in Caleb Williams, and it was not only because he's an amazingly talented player, but that's also because you want to push all of your assets into the rest of the team the way the Seattle Seahawks did early on in Russell Wilson's career and go for it right here, right now. They're in win now mode. But with all of this projecting that we're doing on this schedule, and it's a lot of fun to do it, if Montez Sweat, God forbid, were to get hurt for any reason, for any period of time,
that's a lot. Yeah, we're playing Madden with the injuries off right here when we're doing this.
Yes, 100%. But that he's the one player, because I think they're going to have injuries, obviously, but I think they can sustain them everywhere else on their roster with the exception of their pass rushers. They really need Montez Sweat to stay upright for 17 games. Anywhere else, I think they have enough depth to hold over until said player returns, obviously outside of Caleb Williams as well. But it's an exciting time. It really is. And I can't wait for the season to get here. I think we're like 109 days away from Bears Titans and 70 days away from camp. So it's I'm just counting it down. I gotta
figure it out. Yeah, I gotta bring back the old countdown on Instagram where I would highlight a player of the day and hey, 99, we're Dan Hampton days away, or Warren Sapp, whoever, we could do it. Either or. It's so much fun. But I want to thank you for being here. This was again, we're going to go through a series of these. We're leading with you. And then we're going to have Cynthia's actually waiting for me. I'm going to change my shirt. So if anybody who's watching both of these will be like, oh, Rank, take these back to back. Thank you for noticing. Because I think everybody's going to tune into this one. It's the other ones. People will be like, I don't want to listen. I don't care what the Packers guy thinks. But
you were wearing your
this is the one
every day. That's what
I'm going to change. I'm going to put something over it so I look a little different. Just so that thing looks different when you do a little thumbnail.
Yeah.
The meatball shirt will be on underneath the sweatshirt, but want to thank you. I know that one of the best things about having you on these shows is because we dialed you up, right? Like we talked 10 minutes before the show, and then we have you on, and then we usually have a green room session 10 minutes after. Won't be able to do that today, but I want to thank you to do that. Thank you for doing that. And we'll get together soon. I know we have some other things to discuss. So we'll talk soon. And I want to thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. I'm on my way to Comiskey Park for the Sox game tonight. Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze are throwing out the first pitch. I'm a Cubs fan, but I'm heading over to the South Side to go see our boy.
Bring in Kyler Murray to throw in the first pitch. Where's Larry Fitzgerald? South. I'm always suspicious. Whenever I see somebody wearing White Sox gear, I'm like, who's your football team?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, what do you mean? What do you mean? Hey, the Cardinals played in your stadium, not ours. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, Caleb didn't throw out the first pitch at Wrigley. They all went to Wrigley, and I was at that game. Didn't throw out the first pitch. Didn't sing the seventh inning stretch. But he's going to throw out the first pitch at Comiskey. So I had to go because we got to see if he's going to throw a strike or not.
Let's do it. Give us a report on that. In any event, thank you so much for being here.
Yes,
We'll be in touch soon. And for the both of us, bear down, and Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.